Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us here on SA Today. Now, cashless societies are becoming a phenomenon where all financial transactions take place through the transfer of digital information instead of your physical banknotes or coins. Whilst consumers have already embraced digital payment options prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, the health crisis is rapidly accelerating the adoption of seeking safer contact-free payment methods. We're joined now via Skype by Derek Cikes. He is Commercial Director at Payment Fintech Payflex, and he'll give us a bit of insights into the discussion. Good afternoon to you, Derek. Thank you so much for joining us here on the SABC News channel.
Good afternoon to you and your viewers on a very cold Saturday afternoon.
Listen, winter is
I'm
here.
all wrapped up with a blanket on my knees, trying to keep warm.
Indeed. So, the health crisis, really, how has it changed the way South Africans interact with cash and perhaps their spending habits?
Sure. It's been a process over the last sort of 5 to 7 years that banks and the payment industry as a whole is trying to find ways to move people away from cash. And there's lots of reasons people don't want to move away. There's trust issues. There's issues related to people not wanting the receiver of revenue to find out what they're earning. There is adoption issues. And so slowly but steadily, those kind of things are being taken away over time. But the virus and the pandemic that we're facing now has driven quite a strong surge in the adoption of more and more cashless type transactions. And that's being driven largely by fear, to be blunt.
Yeah. So I wanted us to touch a bit on that. I want you to explain to us how us as South African consumers are sort of facilitating this adoption of cashless payments.
Well, so what started happening now is, initially there were kind of players that came into the market like SnapScan and Zapper, who would allow you to bring your phone into a retail environment and you'd be able to scan the QR code, and then that would allow the transaction to take place against your bank account. Then we've started seeing the banks introduce your tap and go cards. We've seen Apple and the Android platforms start introducing contactless pay on your telephones. So there's lots of different mechanisms that are starting to come into the bricks and mortar space. In the online transaction space, it's a little bit more straightforward because you can't actually swipe a card when you're transacting online. And so when you're transacting online, it's a matter of keying in your credit card or your debit card details in order to do the transaction. That's also now been augmented a little bit with companies like Ozo, who are coming in and allowing you to do electronic payments directly from your bank account into the retailer's account. So there's lots of different ways that this is happening across both bricks and mortar and the retail and the online retail space.
And you and I both know that crooks as well are certainly taking advantage of the situation that we're facing now, this global pandemic, coronavirus. So how the issues around safety, really, how do customers or consumers ensure that their information is safe? As you say, that at some instances when you buy, you just need to give your the card number and such things. So how do we move away from falling prey to people with wrong intentions?
So I think the easiest answer there is common sense. And I've been told many times before that common sense is not so common. But, we've worked with cash for many, many years. All of us from the time we were children and, all the way up to a present stage of life. And when you deal with cash, you don't walk around with a bundle of cash and leave it on a table. You don't walk around with your wallet or your purse and leave it in the open. And it's the same thing when you're starting to transact with a credit card or transact online. You are not going to go into an environment where you don't trust the website. You're not going to go into a shop where you don't trust what's going on and leave your cash or your credit card lying around. You're not going to write your PIN number on the back of the credit card so that anybody that picks it up is able to use it. So if you kind of treat online transactions or credit card transactions the same way you treat your cash, with a right amount of care and suspicion around the people around you, you'll then make sure that you're safe. That's not a fail-safe guarantee, obviously, because there's going to be times where things can go wrong and you can be tricked into divulging those informations. But you've got to keep your wits about you all the time. And that's the same whether you're using cash or whether you're using an online transaction method.
So I like the fact that you're highlighting the point that common sense is not so common to everyone after all. So we've seen a few online retailers also helping customers to accelerate these cashless trends. Share with us your insights on this particular trend.
Sure. There's massive amount of changes that are happening, both, as I said earlier, in the bricks and mortar space and online. So in the bricks and mortar space, we've seen quite a few things happening there. First and foremost, you've seen more and more businesses start to adopt the tap and go technology that the banks are offering. You've seen more and more retailers start offering the ability to pay using your phone. So a similar kind of technology, you tap your phone. So Apple Pay, Android Pay, Garmin Pay, those kind of things are being accepted more and more. Then you've got the companies like I mentioned earlier, Zapper and SnapScan, who are introduced the QR code scanning ability for you to make payments. And now the big four banks have taken that same technology and they're starting to roll that out within their own banking apps. In addition to that, you're seeing the telcos, the likes of MTN and Vodacom, introducing their own e-wallets, which are allowing people to transact directly on their telephone to do a number of different services. So, for instance, on the Momo wallet, you're able to pay for electricity, renew your car license. You're able to order anything from airtime right through to food. So there's a lot of that's happening in the bricks and mortar space. In the online space, you're finding more and more of the retailers looking at different mechanisms or different payment tools that people can use to stay away from credit. So something like our business that allows people to buy and then not get themselves into debt. So there's lots of stuff that's happening across all those different facets, and it's a really exciting space to be in at the moment.
All right, so I'm afraid due to time constraints, that's where we'll leave it for today. Thank you so much for coming through. My guest there, Derek Cikes, the Commercial Director at Payment Fintech Payflex, talking to us about cashless societies becoming a phenomena here in South Africa, more so due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And let's take a quick break here on SA Today. We'll see you right at the top of the hour when we wrap up SA Today.